Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. If you have kids, you have grandkids, or you know of kids, you know that raising them today is awfully tough. It's not like the 1950s. Maybe it was tough then for parents, but I'm not sure. I don't think so. 60s was not as tough maybe as today. Why is that? Well, some people think because there's a lot of government interference into the lives of parents and their kids. Who's raising the kids? Are the parents raising the kids, or is big government raising the kids? Well, there's an organization out there, Not My Kids New Mexico, that we're going to discuss today, and also Better Together. That's another organization. I believe they're kind of hand in hand on this effort to find out ways that are best for our kids, have parents raise their own kids and not have government interference. So we're going to discuss Better Together and Not My Kids New Mexico right after this. Stay with us.
Hey America, now there's a place where we can join our voice, Real America's Voice. Real America's Voice is coming to a town near you with a grassroots approach, bringing the real voice of America together. Real America's Voice is growing our family of networks across the country, and soon you could be part of that change. Download the Real America's Voice app and join other Americans just like you across the country, coming together for real change.
Welcome back to the program. I'm sure a lot of us think we are wonder parents, right? Wonderful parents, or like Superman, Superwoman parents. Well, then what's happening with our kids? We think we're raising them correctly, but what's going on with this current generation? I don't have the answers. I'm not sure if you have the answers, but my guest might have the answers. I'm so glad to have Carla Sonntag. She's the president, of New Mexico Business Coalition, but also she's with the Better Together organization. We're going to learn all about that, Carla. Thank you for being a part of the program. And Lisa Chapman is with Not My Kid New Mexico. Welcome to the program, Lisa. What's your full title here in Bernalillo County?
I'm one of the Bernalillo County referendum captains.
For the program,
yes.
Not My Kid. Okay, what is Not My Kid, Carla Sonntag?
Well, this is a project about collecting signatures to get 6 really bad laws on the ballot in 2024. They're currently in effect. They were just signed by the governor in this year, but we want the voters to decide. Because
these laws have passed.
They have passed and they are in effect. But through the Constitution in New Mexico, we have the right to referendum these bills and get them on the ballot in 2024. And that's what we're doing with notmykidnm.org.
So even though a law is in effect with a referendum,
yes,
and you're collecting them, Lisa Chapman, here in Bernalillo County, we can overturn a law.
We can get it on the ballot if we get enough signatures on the referendum petitions. It would be for this phase over 72,000 statewide.
72 signatures.
72,000 signatures per law that we want to put on the ballot.
And that's again the ballot, just not to overturn a law, just to give voters a choice.
Yes.
On this. Have we had many referendums, Carla? I know I didn't.
We've had some attempts in the past, but we haven't had a lot of success. It's a very challenging process. And so we're talking 72,000 signatures per law, and there's 6 laws we're attempting to get on the ballot.
Not My Kid. What's that all about, Not My Kid, Carla? Or excuse me, Lisa.
So a lot of the laws, we had many bad laws that were signed by the governor, but we just feel like the ones that are targeting children and interfering with parents' rights to know what's happening to their child, much less giving consent, and it's powered through this public school system mostly.
Okay. So we're going to talk about those laws, but what's your effort? I was at the state fair recently, and I saw Not My Kid there. So they're collecting signatures in Bernalillo County there. Where else are you collecting signatures, Lisa?
So it's statewide. So we've been doing recently a lot of county fairs, and then of course the state fair, and a lot of churches, we are in to help. We've had a great reception because people are finally understanding the extent of what has been going on up at the legislature.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And you've been successful so far.
Yes.
I mean, this is taping of this program in September, but you hope to have the collection of signatures by when, Lisa Chapman?
It would be probably by early next year.
Okay, is there a deadline, Carla?
We've got to have it done by July of next year, but we want to get it done as quickly as we can, because there's more work to be done once that happens. And so we can't just get the signatures and send them in. And then you've got to keep in mind that the Secretary of State is fighting us every step of the way.
Carla, what is the organization Better Together, and how does that fit in with Not My Kid New Mexico?
Well, BetterTogetherNewMexico.org is the parent organization of Not My Kid. And the Not My Kid is the initiative that goes with the referendum to get the signatures. But Better Together is an organization of like-minded groups throughout the entire state. We have come together to say enough is enough. And we are all working together to get the word out, to educate New Mexicans about the legislature and about the problems that we're encountering. We don't have to live like this. It's our state, it's our government. We need to have better say in that, and that's the purpose of getting these on the ballot.
Of course, part of our say is voting for our elected representatives. They're supposed to be our voice. What's the problem going on now with that?
Well, that's part of this process. We're educating people about who signed on to these laws, who voted for them, because maybe these people want to make a different decision when they go to the polls next year, because these are the people that are making decisions to take away parental rights.
You're nodding your head, Lisa Chapman.
yes.
Why? What are you agreeing with, and why did you get involved in this?
So we started when the election had happened. We were just like, oh my gosh, based on the election results, we could predict what was going to happen during the legislative session, etc. So we started meeting by Zoom statewide throughout the state, and we called it Kingdom Business because we are going against some very strongholds in our state, and so we were looking at the bills and figuring out which ones we were going to target and trying
Why
to
did you
fight them.
Why you personally get involved? Are you a parent?
I'm,
What are you finding? Or someone who's
well-
feeling strapped by government? What?
Yeah, that all of the above. And grandparent now too, not quite school-age grandchildren, but also from working with the Right to Life Committee of New Mexico for the life, and we definitely have them going for children from the moment of conception on. So they're
that's your involvement in
targeting,
getting this.
that's my heart with.
And Carla, how did you get involved in this? Or when have you not gotten involved in this, I should say?
Well, I started the New Mexico Business Coalition 15 years ago, which is the parent of Better Together New Mexico. It was during the COVID lockdown when I saw such unease around the state for the lockdown and the impact it was having on us personally and professionally. And I decided to try to see if our side could unite. And it's working. We have over 140 groups that have come together working. If it's a single issue or if it's a multitude of issues, they're working together. And our goal is to educate people, let them know who's making these decisions and what we can do differently.
You've been successful at getting the word out, and you've been a guest on our program, and we appreciate you bringing your information. Better Together, how long has that organization been around?
It's going on 3 years.
I like the name, Better Together.
We've got an outreach now of over 250,000 New Mexicans, and in this referendum project, so to be clear, it was Kingdom Business, and Lisa was a member of that started the referendum process. Once they got that together and created the different petitions, then they came to Better Together and they said, can you help us organize the network throughout the state? So that's been our role in supporting them in what they're doing.
And Kingdom
Business.
Business?
Yes.
How long has that organization been around?
It was very grassroots organization. It's basically, I guess, founded by Larry Marker. He ran as an independent for the Public Land Commissioner, and he's been fighting oil and gas for a long time. And so he's very well read on court cases and trying to stand up for rights. And so
And look what you have in your hand,
I
the
do have
show.
the New Mexico Constitution, our foundation. It's our foundation.
And that's your
with it.
concern.
Besides the Bible, this is what we are going by.
The Bible and
Yes, yes.
the state constitution. Thanks for that, Lisa. Carla, under COVID, the governor had a health emergency order, and we've seen it again rise up.
Yes.
Now that should put the whole state on alert that is back without really a health emergency. There's a crime emergency, which we've known about, but now she's using those powers for crime.
And the issues with crime in our state, when it escalated, was under her leadership and 2 different laws that she got passed and signed. And those are the ones, we call it the revolving door of criminals, bail reform.
And we're going to talk about that in another show. But
Yes.
again, the idea that we're under another health order.
Right, and
When an executive has complete control over our lives.
This time she said that the Constitution and her oath to uphold it is not absolute. And people across the nation have said that's not true. The Constitution is to be upheld. And it's the Constitution that gives us the right to do the referendum. We're following the law as it is outlined. But it's been a battle with our Secretary of State because she does not want these laws put on the ballot next year.
Let's start with what you think is the most egregious. We have where it takes control from the parent and gives it to government control. Which one do you think that is? I mean, I have reproductive and gender affirming healthcare, school-based healthcare centers, reproductive healthcare providers, expand human rights act scope, rights protections, and election changes. Oh, some of these sound like really positive titles, don't they?
Oh, yes, they're really good at titling.
They're good at titling. So what would you like to touch upon first?
Well,
you're most concerned that takes away rights of parents.
There's 3 of them that go hand in hand. The first is the reproductive and transgender health care. That bill allows a child of any age to get an abortion or to change their gender without their parents' knowledge. And in fact, if someone from the school or the healthcare society notifies the parents, they're in violation of that law. So they're actually taking the rights of parents away from the parents and giving it to the school and to healthcare providers outside of the parents' control.
Lisa, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, that's the worst by far. That's what they pushed initially, and then the other bills are kind of companion bills to help drive that main HB 7.
And what's your main concern about this bill?
It is the going after our children from the womb on, that's without the parents knowing what happens to them or giving consent. There's all kinds of pharmaceuticals that go with some of this process as they're pushing them that way, and there's side effects to those. And then if you do not even know what has started with your child, medically that's very unsafe and very dangerous.
But who do you feel has the right of, who has the right of our children? Who has the right overseeing the decisions of our children?
It absolutely needs to be the parents.
Until what age?
18.
Carla, regarding the issue is parents not having the ability to have permission, the child not going to having to go to the parent. Right. So the child goes to the government for permission, it sounds like.
Yes, and one of the companion bills puts healthcare centers in the schools. So the child can go from the classroom to the healthcare center and start this process. Now, they're not going to do surgeries and abortions at the school, but they will transport the child to get that done, all without the parent's knowledge. The parent is the legal responsible guardian for that child until they're 18. So we're not taking a position on what the child is doing as long as the parents are involved in that decision. And after that child's 18, they're on their own. They are adults and they can make whatever decision that they want.
It's interesting when a child uses a parent's weapon or gun that isn't locked securely and creates a crime, the parent can be charged for that crime because they're responsible for their child.
Yes.
But in this case, the government is taking the parent's responsibility away.
That's exactly right, and that's our concern. We don't want the state raising our children. Our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, any child should be under the control and custody of the parent. And they should make those decisions together with the parent about what is right and proper for that child.
But what if the child is afraid to go to the parent? I mean, I think that's the argument, isn't it? Especially in cases of abortion. The girl doesn't want the parent to know what activity the girl was engaged in, and so she's fearful perhaps of the parent, and maybe she feels that her life is endangered from her parents. What about that case, Lisa?
Well, they do use that as one of the main, but if she has been taking some of, let's say, the chemical abortion, which is basically the major way of ending a pregnancy at this point, you might have a child with serious side effects, from that, and they're telling Planned Parenthood, which is heavily involved with this, telling them just go. It's like a heavy period. Don't worry, and then she's bleeding out or having issues with it. So and then the parent has no idea what's going on.
But the argument has been the child may be afraid to tell kids are afraid to tell their parents all sorts of things, right? Remember when you were younger?
Yes. Well, and if that's an issue, I think what the state could do is provide assistance for that, provide a counselor to go with the child to talk to the parent, but not to take away the rights of the parent to be involved in that child's life. These are life-changing decisions, whether it's abortion or transgender, that the child many times is not mature enough to make on their own. So is the child going to refer to a state person, a medical person, or the parent? If they need assistance in talking to the parent, then they should get that assistance. But the parent should be involved. They have a right to know what's going on with the child.
Does your bill include having the parent? I mean, your bill is just to overturn this. The referendum would just overturn this bill, and then maybe in the future there could be assistance if the child, because that's the argument. The child needs help.
Yes.
With their parents.
Yes, but when you look at the transgender, these children, there's bodily mutilation sometimes that goes with that, and then there's hormonal changes. And the child taking hormones, we know now in the countries that led on this, Sweden and others, in the transgender, now have outlawed that for children under 18. It is so life-changing and so detrimental, and many go into a state of depression. Suicide is much higher. If a child's going through this and the parent doesn't know, and the child gets depressed and starts getting suicidal, the parent isn't even going to know why, because they're not allowed to know by this law.
What kind of reaction are we getting here in Bernalillo County with your referendum?
Well, overall, it's been very positive. Very positive. We're getting a lot of people. Some of them don't even. It's almost like they don't believe that those are actually laws. It's because they're so egregious. So we just have all kinds of levels of response, but it's overwhelmingly been very good.
And I would add, it's nonpartisan.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, people want to know what's going on with their children, and they're just outraged at these laws. And during the time the laws were being considered and we were testifying against them, they straight out said in committee, the sponsors of the bills, a child of any age. So you could have a child that's 9 years old decide Johnny wants to be Susie. And they can start that process and the parents wouldn't know.
What's probably kind of amazing to you, Lisa, but I think Carla and I know the public they're not really in tune with what's going on with their state senators, state representatives, and in Santa Fe. Their lives are busy enough and I think they're trusting, they elect, or they don't go to the polls to elect, and they just trust what happens, but they need to know what the decisions made in Santa Fe by the legislature and the governor affect us deeply, our personal lives.
Yes.
But they don't seem to know until you're bringing up this referendum. Is that what you're finding?
It is a huge educational process. I mean, I didn't really know about the Constitution, the New Mexico Constitution, and our rights, and so we get educated as we're educating others.
Of course, but it is surprising. It is surprising.
It is. It's really sad, but very encouraging, Diane, to see the number of people really tuning in to what is happening in Santa Fe that impacts their life in a significant way, even if they don't have children, to see the significance of these bills. And then we didn't talk about the election bills. Those are horrendous as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have good titles. Expand Human Rights Act, that sounds good. Mm-hmm. Voting Rights Protections, that sounds good. And then there's election changes. So
yes. Well,
wow, we're expanding our rights and we're protecting our rights. Carla Sonntag?
Yes. Well, in the expansion of the rights, you have to be careful how you do that and what you ask for, right? So we're just seeing that any agency, for profit or not for profit, that has taken money from the state, let's say a church is accepting money from the state to help feed the homeless. Now the state is.
I'm not sure if that happens very often with churches, though, accepting money, because with the money from the church comes a lot of strings attached.
Yes, and that law goes to that. So churches and other businesses that may be working anywhere in that realm, take state money for any reason, are subject to that law, and that law is going to dictate who they can hire. And that may be a violation of what you're doing in your business. If you or church, you may not want an atheist working on your staff.
The Expanded Human Rights Act scope, that's HB 207, violates religious liberty for churches and employers. How is that working again? How if you're getting money from government, then they dictate?
Yes, then you're subject to that, and they can then tell you who you can hire and who you.
Oh, gosh, okay.
And so that violates some rights when you may have a disagreement with that person.
Okay. Then HB 4, voting rights protections. Now that sounds good. We're protecting voting rights.
Yes, we are, but the problem is we're expanding it to a point. There's two really egregious sections in that law. First is that felons will be allowed to vote before they have completed their sentence. We're all about second chances, but pay your debt to society first. And in fact, in that law, newly convicted felons never lose their right to vote at all. If they've already been convicted, as soon as they step out of the correctional facility, they can vote again before they've finished probation.
But you're saying new felons receive their voting rights immediately?
They never lose them.
So even when they're incarcerated, they have the right to vote?
Well, yes. Now, they have not taken it to that step of will they allow them to vote absentee? But that's another part of the bill. They want everybody voting permanently absentee. And the other big part, Diana, is if you do business with the state, with any agency, and you're not registered to vote, you will automatically be registered without your permission. And it's not until 30 days after you get registered to vote, and there's a little caveat there, that if you're voting or registered illegally, you should make amends and stop that voting right. Well, if you are here illegally and obtained your driver's license, how likely is it that they're going to get that postcard notification? And how likely will they respond? They're not responding to our other laws, so will they respond to this? And so we're expanding our voter rolls unnecessarily with people that maybe should not be on them.
So if they, people who are here illegally are able to receive their driver's license, and you're saying at MVD, they're able to go in and get their license, and at that point, they're automatically registered to vote, even though they're not a resident.
Yes, there's a section that says if you're not legally allowed to vote, you shouldn't vote. But the system will automatically check that person against the voter database and register them to vote. They say that it won't happen, but then their corrective postcard that goes out 30 days later again notifies them, if you're registered illegally, then you should take the means to stop that.
They didn't have permission, they didn't ask to do it, but now they're being told to stop it.
Right.
The election changes, we just have a minute left, Carla Sonntag.
That's more, some of it's cleanup, some of it's okay, but it just goes hand in hand with the other voter bill that is, that one in particular, taking away our rights to ever question the vote that comes out. So,
We don't have a right to challenge a
right,
vote?
even a candidate.
We don't have a vote to challenge. It's taken away the right to challenge.
You can't challenge, you can't see the information anymore. Why do they want to keep that secret? That is public information. We all have the right to that information, except for this law that has passed and taken that right away.
Lisa Chapman with Bernalillo County, Not My Kid, New Mexico. Where can people get more information on Not My Kid, New Mexico?
Okay, there on that website there is information with the county, like the separate counties. You can click on that information to find places that are permanent signing locations. We do a lot of events, but then we want to have a signing location.
Any location in Bernalillo County?
Permanent? The permanent ones right now are at the Republican Party of New Mexico headquarters and the Republican Party of Bernalillo County.
Okay, great. Thank you. Carla Sonntag, you've got so much energy. We know we can find more information with Better Together, New Mexico. Thank you so much for being a part of the program and for all both of you doing for the state.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thanks
for watching the show. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The New Mexico Modern Child Support Family Program works to benefit both parents for the purpose of improving children's lives. It provides the basics of child support, but goes further by helping parents step up to find better job opportunities that get them back on track to paying their monthly child support obligation. Find out how the Child Support Step Up program can help your modern family. Contact New Mexico Child Support today to learn more.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.